Hey, Hey, Wasatch. I'm Victor Ogden, your secretary.
And I'm Jack Engel, your president.
Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a few quick announcements. Ninth graders, you need Lagoon permission slips in as soon as possible. And reminder, Lagoon on Thursday closes at 4 o'clock, so if you're planning on staying later, then you might need to change your plans.
All right, so today, because it's a PM assembly schedule, your lunch is based on your 5th period teacher, so check out the list and see what lunch you have.
If you have any art in Mr. Whiteman's room, it will need to be picked up by the end of school tomorrow or it will be thrown away. Thanks.
And also, yearbook staff is needed in the office for 7th period today.
And then last thing, just a reminder, stay off other school campuses like Upland and Churchill because you can be charged with trespassing, so watch out for that. Okay, so today we're going to be interviewing some more veterans, so I will invite them to come on. We're going to ask them a few questions.
All right, so what war or conflict did either of you serve in?
I served in the in 2003 in the Desert Storm. Yeah, Desert Storm.
And?
I served in 1991 in the first Gulf War in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait.
Okay. Which branch of the military did you serve in? Why and how long did you serve?
I served in the U.S. Army for 3 years active duty and 27 years additional in the Army Reserve. So a total of 30 years. Went to Iraq in the beginning of the Desert Storm, 2003. I believe that I've always had a huge love for our country and felt like that was one way that I could demonstrate my appreciation, my respect, my payback, if you will, to our countrymen who gave their lives, as many of our ancestors have. I just felt a great love for our country and our countrymen, and I wanted to do that for them and for members of this wonderful land, this land of liberty that we live in, the United States.
I served in the Army as well. I'm an Army Nurse Corps officer. Started out in the Air National Guard in 1970, served a total of 42 years. I initially joined the military because I'm old enough that I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I didn't serve in Vietnam, but I'm a veteran of that era. And I think we have an obligation to serve the country. We have a long tradition of service in the military in my family. I have 3 uncles that served in the Second World War, one in the Army, one in the Navy, one in the Marines. My dad is a Korean War veteran, and I have a nephew that's a retired Special Forces sergeant. We have a long tradition of service to the nation.
All right, so what does patriotism mean to you?
Patriotism. Have you thought about that for a little bit as you're growing up years? What does patriotism mean to you? To me, I've grown up with a deep respect for the American flag, for our country. I think that happened a long time ago in my youth as I began to serve and sacrifice more as a scout. As a scout, you learn a lot about the American flag and its value. We grew up here in America. This is our normal life, so we don't know anything different. We're truly a blessed people. The education that you receive from your great teachers, supported by the staff here. I mean, you, the SBOs, you volunteered for this position. So your sacrifice for your students, you love this school because you've sacrificed for them. It seems like the things that we sacrifice the most for, we have the greatest appreciation and love for. So I think if you can begin to start to realize what the American flag means to you, patriotism, loyalty, devotion, and freedom. So that allows, that word freedom that so many of our ancestors died for means a lot. They gave their whole lives for their families, for their country, for their countrymen, for their brothers and sisters. And it just seems kind of a natural thing. As you sacrifice for it, you develop a greater appreciation for.
For me, patriotism also means love and service. Love of the country, service to the country. There are a lot of perhaps tried adages that speak about patriotism and freedom, but it is in fact true that freedom isn't free. And we all serve the nation one way or another. It's the little things. You don't have to go to war and be injured or die in a war. It's the little things that make you a patriot, and they're everyday patriots around you. People that serve in the community in elected offices or just in their neighborhood. I think one of the greatest services we can do as Americans is to vote. Every 4 years, we get to go to the polls and say who's going to run the country. And I think that's important. That's patriotism for me.
Can I mention one other thing? Hearing Steve mention that we're God-fearing, God-loving people, and I think that, or a higher being, if you will, for those, I think that there is that we're blessed by being here in this land because of that individual that is watching over us and is taking care of us and is giving us opportunities to sacrifice and learn and grow from our challenges. Life's a challenge, and there are different kinds of challenges, and our attitude, I think our attitude is everything. Some people have what looks like positive things that happen in their life, and other people have different challenges. And if we look at those challenges with a great attitude and think, how can I learn from this? Then our patriotism and our love for our country continues to increase.
Okay. How do you see how patriotism has changed over the years?
I think that we're questioning what patriotism is. And I think that we're seeing changes in the way that we used to be patriotic in the past. People say you can burn the American flag, it's freedom. I don't agree with that, but that's what I fought for, is your freedom to do that. You don't have to stand for the national anthem. I disagree with that. But I fought for your freedom to sit during the national anthem. We're not as patriotic as we used to be. We take everything for granted. When you've given up a big chunk of your life to the military, like Jeff and I have, you begin to feel differently about the nation. I served for all those years, and it was a privilege. It was an honor and a privilege to serve. And I don't think that patriotism anymore feels that way. And again, I go back to the voting. 75% of the people in the United States don't vote. That means that 25% of us are deciding who leads this country. That's shameful. We all want to vote. Because we can. Because people like Jeff and I fought for your right to vote.
Yeah, I think patriotism has changed. I mean, it's a viewpoint from it's a perception of the viewer, but life's changing, you know? So how can we develop a greater appreciation for what we have? How are we more grateful? Can we have more gratitude one way or the other for the things that our fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, uncles, our family members have fought for, have sacrificed for? Absolutely. I mean, I can even be more patriotic. Stand up when I should stand up. But like Steve says, that's what freedom's about, allowing somebody the freedom to choose. Being here in this great country that's why people, come to this country immigrants from all over the world still want to be here. It means something. The American flag means something. People from other countries literally run up to that flag and embrace it and kiss the ground when they're here because they've lived without it. We've grown up with it. I have. I take it for granted way too much. Patriotism has changed. I could be better.
All right, so could you briefly describe your experience, your thoughts, and your perspective now that you've served?
Well, they definitely have changed. Whenever you go without something, you begin to appreciate the things you once had. You recognize it more. I guess life experience teaches you that. You appreciate elementary school and your teachers much more so now that you're older. And you through your life experiences, your coaches that teach you that. You now are, this is your last week of school, right? So you're looking at the last days of your junior high school. You're moving on. You may not see these same friends again. Well, we're the same way. When we left some of our military experiences out in the field that you sacrificed and you were uncomfortable in, you began to appreciate your fellow soldiers a whole lot more because you sacrificed together. You sacrificed with your teachers, your coaches, your counselors. Some of you might have shed some really strong tears, and you know who you are. You can't change that stuff. That helps you become more appreciative of life.
For me, military service was a privilege and an honor. As Jeff said, you begin to appreciate the things you have when you don't have them anymore. I spent 6 months in Saudi Arabia and 6 months in Kuwait at 2 different times. I was in Kuwait when 9/11 occurred, and it was real scary to be thousands of miles away and see what was happening and couldn't get through to home. You miss home when I make the joke that I like sleeping in the dirt and I like hot water and bad food. But I really like the United States because it's given me the perspective of what it is we have here. It's worth fighting for. It's worth defending. It's worth something.
Okay, how has your service affected your life?
Oh, in a huge positive way. How about you?
I wouldn't trade it for anything. We both, in our own separate ways, given up a lot for our service. We've given up a lot in our personal lives and in our professional lives for our service. And I wouldn't change it for anything. I have life experience that's irreplaceable. I have friends and people that I've known that were invaluable to me. I have the personal belief that if I haven't learned something every day, the day's been a waste. And every day in the Army, I learned something. Something's good, something's bad.
Yeah, and it translates to our everyday lives. Like we said as we gave the Pledge of Allegiance, do we just say that as trite words, or do we really think about those words? Individually, I feel like I'm a pretty strong person, but with Steve, I'm stronger. And with more of us, we're stronger. It's like it says, united we stand. We're stronger people united when we're united together in a common good cause. So there's lots of causes out there. And just think about how better our family is, our communities are, our school is, when we're united together in a good common cause. Patriotism does that. It gives us a reason to really stand for something that we begin to believe in. And when we believe in that, that belief continues to grow until we feel stronger with it and in it. And we become more united. We're a strong people together. I'm a stronger person when I'm surrounded by you great people.
So lastly, is there anything you want us to know about veterans in general?
Veterans are people. They're goofy, they're weird, they're dorky sometimes. I know I am. Um,
And they're all around you.
yes.
You walk up and down the street, you'll meet veterans. It doesn't matter how or where you served, you're a veteran. The thing that I'd like you to remember is that these veterans have served to keep us free in one way or another. And the greatest veterans that have given us the most are the ones that aren't with us anymore.
Right.
There are a lot of people that have given up their lives for this country. You hear about the beaches of Normandy and the islands of the South Pacific and the battles all around the world. Those are real people. And they did that for us. There's an old, I learned in October of 1970 when I was in basic training, there's what's called the Code of Conduct, and the first article says, I am an American fighting man. I serve in the forces which guard our country and protect our way of life. I'm prepared to give my life in their defense. Every veteran, whether he knows it or not, has sworn himself to that notion.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, over to Mr. Anderson. Would you like to?
So I'd like to thank these gentlemen for coming with us. What are your ranks in the military?
I'm a colonel.
Colonel?
Full bird colonel, and he's earned every wing on that feather. And I'm a master sergeant.
Master Sergeant. I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for coming and visiting with us today. Your words are special and dear to us, so we appreciate them. So thank you with that. You guys know what to do, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, people, all you
Thank you.
listeners.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Oh.
All right. So, just a few heads up just a little heads up.